The following program contains shockingly brilliant insights. If you suffer from a lack of dark sunglasses, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your optometrist.
The Arab Spring. It's not like Irish Spring. It doesn't leave you feeling refreshed. It leaves you feeling dead. The Arab Spring is a bouquet of weeds, everyone. The Muslim Brotherhood turned out to be the bad guys after all. And if you've been watching this show, you know that. Obama wants to support the Muslim Brotherhood, but he wants to also spy on you. Go figure. Has the United States become the international bad guy? Let's think about that.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
That's what I'm talking about. People are starting to finally realize that the Muslim Brotherhood might be the bad guy. Yeah, we're going to talk about what's going on in Egypt right now. Suddenly, everyone is interested in the Muslim Brotherhood, and we have been providing more information on the Muslim Brotherhood than any television show in America. So you've come to the right place if you want to know more. First, a word of Islamic truth. Read lie from Granny Jihad.
It's time now for Down Home with Granny Jihad.
Latakrapa! Children, come close and listen. I heard Muhammad saying, during the last days there will appear some young foolish people who will say the best words, but their faith will not go beyond their throats. Fake Muslims. And they will go out from their religion like an arrow goes out of the game. So, wherever you find them, kill them. For whoever kills them shall have reward on the day of resurrection. Don't change religion, otherwise Granny kill you.
Welcome to the program, friend. If you're a regular viewer of the program, you know that we did a very in-depth series on the Muslim Brotherhood. And if you did not see any of it, go to our website, voiceofresistance.com. You will learn about the founder, about its agenda, its writings, what it says in print, and how it has come to be the foremost non-governmental Muslim movement in the world. People in 70 countries, over 2 million known members, tens of thousands of cells, both open and secret. All right. Then you'll also know, if you're a news watcher, that Egypt is in the news a lot these days because the military stepped in and said to Mohammed Morsi, "You're gone." Now, he's a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is enraged. But enough people in Egypt were so frightened and disgusted with the movement towards Sharia law and the clamping down of the government on the few civil liberties that they even have in Egypt, that they staged huge demonstrations and said, "We're not leaving until Morsi is gone." The military said, "We're for the people, and we will protect the people from zealots and from fools," basically calling Morsi a fool. So they took him out of office. He is being detained right now. They have also issued a warrant for the arrest of the head of the Muslim Brotherhood, Mohammed Badi, and there are a bunch, I'm not sure, we don't know exactly how many. The media is reporting hundreds of warrants for arrest have been issued for top leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood throughout the country. They, of course, are now in hiding. And one high-ranking Muslim Brotherhood person and a Muslim cleric called upon jihadists, okay, Muslim terrorists, to come to Egypt to try and reinstate Morsi. All right? So now we've got Muslim Brotherhood, Islamic theologians calling for jihadists to go to Syria to topple the government there. And some of you guys have to come back to Egypt. We got to fight in here too, to get them to try and put Morsi back in. What I want you to remember is that the ultimate goal of the Muslim Brotherhood is very simple, just two things. The restoration of one Islamic nation with a caliph, all right, a supreme leader, political, military, and religious, and the implementation of Sharia law. Those are their two main goals. And then one of the later goals is training the youth of the Muslim world in jihad. All right? These are their stated goals. Again, if this is news to you, go to our other shows where we have all the documentation that you will need. And they're proud of it, by the way. They're proud of it. I mean, they're owning their religion. I want to say this about that because I've got other things I want to talk about. You have to give a certain respect. The phrase, give the devil his due. You have to give a certain respect to people who actually take their religion seriously. Now, it's frightening because a Marxist, a communist, might take his political philosophy seriously, but he doesn't want to kill you to get a reward in heaven, nor does he want to die himself in the process in order to get a reward in heaven. He wants to stay down here because, as far as he's concerned, this is all there is. But when you get fire in the minds of men, a fire that says killing and being killed, slaying and being slain, wins me rewards in the next life from the hand of God himself. If that fire gets inside someone's mind, that is the most dreadful person on the planet, because only death will stop him. Only death will stop him. And that is why it has been so difficult to stamp out Islamic terrorism, because once the fire gets in them, there's no surrender that they're going to give. There's no treaty. There's no compromise, because they're serving God in their own mind. They're serving God who wants them to do this. And if they don't execute it faithfully, they may receive punishment from him. And if they do proceed faithfully down the path of jihad, they will receive reward from him. Now, when we come back from this break, I'm going to talk about what the U.S. government is doing for the Muslim Brotherhood. And I want to follow up on a theme that I did with yesterday's program, and that is the U.S. government becoming, or even has it become, the bad guy in the world today? It's disturbing me. It's disturbing me, and I want to at least put the thoughts out. Just hear me out and think about it. I'll be right back. My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paula's Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life. It is a fine thing to be honest, but it is also very important to be right. Sir Winston Churchill. Welcome back to the program, friend. Even as we speak, the U.S. government is funneling funds and armament to Muslim terrorists in the Free Syrian Army. Okay? The so-called Free Syrian Army is made up largely of Islamic jihadists that are trying to topple the government of Assad in Damascus because he is a Shiite. All right? The Sunnis and the Shiites have been fighting since the first generation after Muhammad's death. They fight to this day. And the Sunnis hate the Shiites because the Shiites say that you have to have a blood relative of Muhammad to be the legitimate leader of the people of Islam. The Shiites or the Sunnis say, no, it could be anybody as long as he's following the example and the teachings of Muhammad in the Quran. So, the U.S. government is funding and arming people who are committed to the enslavement and, where possible, the destruction of Christianity. Islamic theology states that Christianity is made up of polytheists. Muhammad said that he is a polytheist who says that God has a son or that God is a trinity. All right? What they say is that, no, there is only one God, and God does not have a son. He neither begets nor was he begotten. Because we say that the Blessed Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, is God, one God, three persons, they claim that we are polytheists. And throughout the Quran and in the life of Muhammad, he, at one phrase, will call Christians the people of the book and show a little bit of tolerance for them if they will keep their mouths shut and they won't ring bells and they won't preach Christ publicly. Just stay over here in your little cloister, in your little monastery. He gives them tolerance. But if those Christians do not bow the knee and embrace Islam and stop preaching that Jesus is Lord publicly, then they are beheaded, they are enslaved. Muhammad himself sent a letter to the leader of the Coptic Christians. Muhammad himself sent a letter to the leader of the Coptic Christians threatening him with destruction if they did not embrace Islam. Now, the Coptic Christians, which are based in Egypt, have been suffering at the hand of Islam for over 1,300 years. All right? And our government keeps funding the military and the infrastructure of Egypt. We're funding Muslim terrorists in Syria. We helped train the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, some of which ended up becoming terrorists against us in the Taliban or in Al-Qaeda. We're propping up and funding the Egyptians for decades while they brutally enslave, torment, imprison, rape, and murder Coptic Christians in Egypt. And it hit me the other night. I was just sitting there thinking, talking with my wife, and I said, I have this horrible feeling in me that the U.S. government no longer wears the white hat. If you think back to John Wayne movies, some of his earlier black and white work, he's almost always wearing a white hat, okay? He's the good guy. And the bad guy is wearing a black hat, maybe a bandana. Maybe he's got a nasty cigar in his mouth. That's the bad guy who's trying to steal or who's trying to rustle somebody else's cattle or who's committed a murder and is running from the law. America had the reputation up until World War II, maybe up until the Korean War, of being the good guy. That started to change dramatically in the Vietnam War when American soldiers were killing civilians. When we come back from this break, I want to make a list for you, just off the top of my head, of what America is doing today that might indicate to us that we're wearing the black hat. And then the question is there a God in heaven? Is he just? And if we are the bad guy, if our government is the bad guy, what does that mean for us? It's very sad, very frightening. I'll be right back with more uplifting television. Don't you love this? I love being sad. Yeah. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, We're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last. Thomas Jefferson said, "All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent." Welcome back to the program, friend. Let me start off by saying this. I love our country, and I am ashamed of our government. All right? Are you able to go there with me? There is patriotism here, and some of it is very justified, okay? If you look back at what Ronald Reagan said was the city on the hill, you look back at the bastion of freedom and opportunity and religious tolerance, combined with a self-conscious building of the republic on Christian principles and Judeo-Christian law and ethics. When you look at that whole incredible picture, land ownership, I mean, just go down the list. There's a lot to be proud of. It's arguable to say that there has never been a republic like this except for ancient Israel itself that was given the laws of God and the Davidic dynasty. It's fair to say, I think, that there never was a republic like this in the history of the world. And I think that it's also fair to say, with grief, with trepidation, that we are not that republic anymore. We used to export freedom. What are we exporting now? Planned Parenthood. Hundreds of millions of US dollars are being spent all over the world to promote abortifacients, baby killing, immoral sexual behavior. That's what we're exporting. It is said that the American pornographic industry makes more money than the NFL or the NASCAR. And the US government is allowing this horrific, misogynist, unethical garbage to be shipped all over the world. An African nation a few months back said that it was going to make it a criminal act for 2 men to have immoral sexual relations with each other. The US government said, if you do that, we will cut off all aid to you. We're funding Muslims who are persecuting, torturing, murdering Christians. Recently, this is kind of a decrescendo here, but we're promoting the homosexual agenda worldwide. We're promoting baby killing worldwide. We're spying on the entire United States population and the citizens of many of our allies. We spend more money on our military than every other nation in the world combined. 51 to 53% of all money spent on armaments for the entire world is spent by us. Then you have the issue of we're stealing privacy rights, we're stealing people's money. In a kind of almost a throwaway line, the city council in Washington, D.C. is on the verge of either passing or not passing a law targeted right at Walmart, not Home Depot, not other big employers, but saying, Walmart, you're not going to pay the minimum wage in our town of $8.50 or $8.25, whatever it is. You're going to pay $12.50. If you want to open these stores here in Washington, D.C., Walmart, you're going to pay $12.50 an hour. Walmart said, then we're out of here. See, that's not liberty. It's a small thing, but it's not freedom. It's simply not freedom. If you put a gun to a company's head and say, this is what you're going to pay people. We're trying to hunt down Snowden because he dared to release the truth about what the government is doing. Our government strong-armed Moscow, was trying to strong-arm Hong Kong, had a role in forcing down the jet with the president of either Ecuador or Bolivia on it. They literally forced a landing, refused airspace in France, so they didn't have enough fuel. They had to force land, and then they searched the plane to see if Snowden was on the plane. I am afraid of what we are becoming. I'm going to take a break and talk about God and how He relates to all this. How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show. Welcome back, friend. I fear that we have gone from being the city on the hill to the Eye of Mordor. If you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, this attempted omniscient dark force in the earth. And there is a God in heaven. I mean, if there is no God, then there can be no accountability ultimately for good and evil or right and wrong. It's who's got the biggest army, who's got the best press, who can deceive people with the latest poll, who can get the most votes, right? I mean, if 90 people vote to take the property of 10 people, it was an election fair and square. Don't matter if it was stealing, we voted on it. See, once you take God and moral absolutes and the 10 Commandments out of the equation, anything goes. But if there is a God in heaven who gave laws and who sees and who hears and who brings judgment, then people, we are in a heap of trouble. And I want to focus on that in these closing moments. Blood talks to God. The blood of your brother is crying out to me, God said, when Cain killed Abel in the book of Genesis. God can hear blood. The blood of these babies is crying from the ground. And now we're not content to only kill our own children. We're spreading child killing around the world. We have helped China with its forced abortion program. 1 child per family. If you have a second pregnancy, they will literally drag women in, begging for mercy, begging for the life of their baby, and forcefully abort that baby. And the U.S. government has stood by China's decision and has granted them most favored nation status. In other words, we put our little trinkets and our little Walmart toys ahead of human life and justice and liberty. And God hears the cry of the oppressed. And if you look in Leviticus chapter 18, or if you look in Leviticus chapter 26, or if you look in Romans chapter 1, you see that the homosexual behavior is a tragic, horrible, abominable sin that also raises God's wrath. He loves us sinners. We're all sinners, okay? But there are some sins that are worse than others. That's what the scripture teaches. They're not all the same. And there are some sins that cry out for God to bring justice. And if we are committing these abominable crimes in this country and exporting them to nations around the world, what do you think Almighty God is going to do with this nation?